Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. And the reason why I stress my traveling is because I do like to travel, and I travel a lot. But I love traveling virtually as well. And that's kind of what we're doing when we do genealogy. We are traveling through time and to locations that we don't always know. So when I started this channel, I wanted to explore the lives of these, first of all, the filles du roi, the king's daughters, but it quickly became apparent to me that les filles mariées, the marriageable girls who came before and were smaller in number, but perhaps even more impactful in terms of the lineage they left. So I wanted to explore les filles mariées as well, and I started that in 2023. And there are, I think, 262 of them as far as I can tell. And we are now on episode 132 or 3, I'm not sure. And we are definitely telling their tales, and some of their stories are just extraordinary because of the fact that so many of them came between 1634 and 1662 in that ballpark. That was the early years, and there wasn't a lot going on in Quebec, so you can imagine what they had to do to survive. So I thought their stories were very important from both a genealogical and a female point of view. I wanted to make sure to honor them. So before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first 3 keep you in the know: subscribe, like, and notify. And the next are ways that you can help the channel grow. We have the memberships that start at 99 cents, go all the way to $24.99. The super thanks, where you can leave a little tip on an episode if you like it. And also on my PayPal, which is on howorootswilltravel.com. So all of that helps the channel grow and expand and all that good stuff. So thank you to all of you who have helped thus far. So let's get on with the show and find out our filles mariées of this episode. Today's episode of Les Filles Mariées is episode 133, Madeleine Surget. Now, this is not a viewer request. It was just one that kind of came into my hands, and I said, I'd really like to get to know this story a little bit better. So let's get to know Madeleine and find out her story. So Madeleine was born in 1641 in Soubise, France. Her parents were François Surget and Marguerite Gravel. She comes to us from the region of Nouvelle-Aquitaine, and her département is Charente-Maritime. In the 17th century, it was a key Huguenot stronghold under the Rohan family. Benjamin de Rohan, Duke of Soubise, led Protestant resistance during the French Wars of Religion. Isn't that kind of interesting to see, like, the intersection of history? The heart of the town is the Church of Saint Pierre, originally a 13th century built church that was rebuilt after the wars. Today, Soubise is a quiet community known for its maritime history, the Rohan family's legacy, and the enduring Church of Saint Pierre. Madeleine would arrive in Montreal prior to July of 1659, as she is present for the marriage of Fille Marie Isabelle Terger. The groom that she selected and who would select her was Jean Clément de la Pointe, and he was born in 1627 in Nancy, France. His parents were Jean Clément and Anne Martin. Nancy, located in the Grand Est region of France, and inside of that is the Meurthe-et-Moselle department or county, has a population now of about 104,000. So it's no small little village, right? It is a city that is shaped by a millennium of European and French history. In the 11th century, Duke Gérard d'Alsace founded a fortified village on swampy terrain between Metz and Saint-Nicolas-de-Port, which would become the Saint-Épreuve district of Nancy. Despite early challenges, the city flourished into a cultural an architectural hub admired for its humanistic spirit and really stunning buildings. One of the oldest surviving structures is the tower of the Commanderie Saint-Jean de Vielêtre. It stands as a reminder of a chapel once used by the Hospitalier of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, highlighting Nancy's medieval spiritual and military significance. So this is really a tremendous place for him to have come from. We do not know his journey to New France. All we know is that by September 28, 1659, he's getting married at Quebec City. And so begins our story of this couple. So they would, at the beginning, settle at Beaupré. The origin of this town, which today has about 3,500 people, began when apparently soldiers from Britain arrived here and were startled by the beauty of the place and apparently exclaimed, "Oh, le Beaupré," which means, "Oh, the beautiful meadow." Looking at the picture on the right, you can see what they meant. And at the 1666 census, Quebec City and Beaupré had essentially the same populations, although, of course, Beaupré has remained a very small village. It was not until 1928 that the place was incorporated as a parish municipality, and it was changed from Beaupré to Notre-Dame du Rosaire, but its name was changed back to Beaupré that same year in order to avoid confusion. So you may encounter this in your research. In 1962, the parish municipality finally gained town status and became Ville de Beaupré. And it's also home to the fabulous ski resort called Mont Sainte-Anne, one of the best. So you can see in the 1666 census, we have Jeanne and Madeleine, their child Jean-Marc, Marie, and Jacquette. And then further along in the next year's census, Jean-Clément and Madeleine Surget. We have Marc, which is interesting how they spell it, and Marie, Jacqueline, Antoine, one tête de bétail, which is like one herd of cattle, and then 5 arpents, about 3.5 acres of land. Finally, they would come to closer to Montreal. La Prairie is where they would settle. La Prairie was founded in 1647 and was an important settlement in New France, located just across the St. Lawrence River from Montreal. It began as a seigneurie granted to the Jesuits and quickly became a strategic military post, a trading hub, and a farming community. La Prairie was a key point along the route south to Lake Champlain and the English colonies, which also made it a target. The town faced repeated Iroquois raids, including major attacks in 1691 and 1693. Despite these challenges, the settlers, many of them Carignan-Salient Regiment veterans, Filles du Roi and Habitat, rebuilt and grew the community. The parish of Saint François Xavier was established in 1676, and today La Prairie is recognized as a National Historic Site, preserving its role in the early history of Quebec. Now remember that La Prairie, which means the meadow, was first granted to the Jesuits in 1667, and they wouldn't get a flour or sawmill until 1687. But interestingly enough, when I talked about the fact that they were just an easy target, that same year, the lumber mill that they had would act as a barrier to the attack from the mercenaries who came to New England. So absolutely amazing place for them to settle. They would have 5 children. Jean-Marc would not leave any descendants, dying unfortunately at age 26. Marie would marry François Vézina and would have 10 children, all of whom would leave descendants. Jacquette, dit Marguerite, would marry Philippe Plamondon, dit Lafleur, and would have 3 children, all of whom would survive. Antoine would pass away before the 1681 census. Madeleine would marry Charles Marin Dagneau and have 10 children, 9 of whom would make it to adulthood. She also would marry René Dupuis, but would not have any children with him. Charles's mother was Fille Mariée Louise Marie Lebreuil, who we have not yet profiled, so stay tuned for that. In 1681, we have a census. Jean Clément, Madeleine is there, Again, the names are always, Surget is her name, but you can see the different spellings. 40, she's 40 years old. Her children, Jean and Madeleine, are the only ones listed. It is obvious that Marie would have been probably married by then, and Jean was still there. Marie and Jacquette are both missing from this census, telling me that they'd already been married. So we only have Jean, the firstborn, and Madeleine at home. In August of 1693, La Prairie faced a devastating attack. A force of roughly 300 to 400 Iroquois warriors, mainly Mohawk and Mohicans, descended on the settlement. Their goal? To disrupt French settlements, seize captives, and assert control over the fur trade. La Prairie was a crucial post for New France. Its people, including Habitat soldiers and their indigenous allies, were constantly on guard. On that day of the attack, they fought back fiercely. The battle raged through fields and woods, and many were killed trying to protect their land. And one of those that was killed, we believe, was in fact Madeleine's husband. Now, the second groom, we know this, we know that Jean had passed away probably by 1693, and Jacques Marais de Lapine was born in 1631 in Flancourt, France. His parents were Richard Marais and Jeanne Costil, and Flancourt-Catalon, as it's called now, is a small rural village in Normandy and is known for its rich history and scenic surroundings. It dates back to the 12th century and features landmarks like the 13th century Église Saint-Ouen and the timber-framed Manoir de la Vacherie, surrounded by the Forêt de Montfort. It's a peaceful community. About 500 people live there now. So Madeleine would marry again September 22nd, 1693. She was in her early 50s. Her new husband would have been about 10 years older than her. So this was truly probably for companionship, but also she probably needed help. Remember that in the census we saw, there wasn't any land or any kind of thing, any kind of resources. So I suspect that this is one of the reasons why she had to marry. So Madeleine, unfortunately, would not last many years after her second marriage. We believe that she died in 1697. We have no record of that. But she and Jacques would have been married for about 4 years. She was just 56 years of age. But as of 1729, she would leave us 148 descendants. And so ends our tale of Madeleine. What did I tell you? These stories are extraordinary. To have suffered the loss of a husband through a horrible, horrible crime of the murder of her husband, and then somehow manage to find love again and leave us with, I think, 148 descendants. That's just amazing. So I'm just in awe of their strength, and they give me strength when I read these stories, because I thought, well, I'm not going to let myself get so down, because look what I've got compared to what these ladies had to go through. So they're very inspirational to me as well. So until I see you on the next episode, thank you to my patient supporters and subscribers. Love you all. And I will see you on the next episode of Les Filles Marie. Until then, au revoir.